What up, what up, what up? It's your boy, Sylvester Stimley, also known as Sly. We are back for another episode. Hey, if you're watching this, put on your seatbelt. If you are driving, you probably want to pull over and put it in park. And if you're at work, you probably want to go into the break room because today's conversation is going to be that intense. And so we are so thankful and grateful that you have chose to join us again today for another episode of Keeping It Kingdom. And don't forget, keeping the kingdom is not just a saying, it is a lifestyle. And I am excited to have my sister in the room. Today is going to be an amazing day where we get to talk all things, therapy and Jesus. So get ready because I have invited a dear friend of mine that I feel like we've known each other for a very long time. And just our conversation right off the bat has went deep. And so y'all give it up for my sis, Miss Mallory. She is in the building.
Hello, hello.
Yes. What's up, sis? How we doing?
Yeah, doing good.
Good,
doing great.
good. Well, what I would love to do is as we, before we jump into this, because we've already been unpacking some stuff for almost about 30, 40 minutes.
Yeah.
I would love for the viewers to just know who you are before we kind of go a little deeper. Who are you? Tell me a little bit about your faith journey, like when you came into a relationship with Jesus Christ, and then we gonna hit the highway and we're gonna go fast.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here. So, my name is Mallory Oxendine. I am a Christian. I'm a believer, first and foremost. For my day job, I'm a licensed professional counselor, a certified sex therapist, and EMDR certified. So kind of some of my specialties.
EMDR. Y'all gonna understand why I'm so hype about this.
We'll explain what the letters stand for too. Yeah, so I kind of specialize in those areas. What else? I'm been married for 7.5 years, got 2 boys. From North Texas originally, lived on the East Coast for a while for college and all that, and then moved back here a couple years ago and excited to be back home in DFW.
Let's go.
Yeah, so let's see. I grew up in a Christian home, came to know the Lord around age 7, and I am a recovering high producer. So I was very active and engaged and did all the things that you're supposed to do.
Right.
With a love for Jesus, but very much in an effort of like, I have to do these things, and missing some of that personal connection. And then I was about 17 or 18, and had my really, really big scare with depression. And I think that is when I came to actual relationship with Jesus. It kind of took that there's an intimacy here that I've been missing. So it was about right before I went to college. Yeah, like the spring of my senior year in high school. Things started to shift for me a little bit. And so I've known I've always wanted to be a helper. Oldest of 6 kids, have adopted siblings. And so they have their story, but being able to, I was 12 or 13 when they moved in, and being able to see how the foster care system works and doesn't work. I was like, who's helping? Who's helping these people? We need more helpers. And I decided then that I wanted to become a helper. And then God has just placed the right people at the right time to speak into me, mentor me, and to pour into me in a way that has led me to where I am today and how I help. But it was my desire to be a helper of people started early.
Wow.
And then it's kind of led me here to where I do a lot of sex therapy and a lot of trauma therapy, and I do the two together, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. It's wonderful.
Wow. So I heard something in there that my radar automatically goes off because there's something about mentorship and discipleship and that process that I believe is extremely beneficial along the sanctification process.
Oh, yeah.
Right? It sounds like when things shifted prior to going to college, you were in the right place to receive the people that God was putting in place
Mm-hmm.
that helped you along that path
Yeah.
of sanctification. And it's allowed your desire to help people to flourish.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting because I truly believe at a young adult, teenage,
Developmental space.
that space, there's resistance to that.
Yeah.
To like having someone, because like you said, you were in a season of depression. Most when they're walking through that, they put up the Heisman. Like, no, no.
And don't get me wrong, okay? It wasn't full like complete openness. No,
Sure,
I
sure,
had
yeah,
I
yeah.
had a little voice in my head that was like,
Yeah.
okay.
Right.
Like,
Right.
someone important and was like, all right,
Yeah.
they know so much. Like there was some of that for sure going on. Yeah.
I assume that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't think you were just like, here's it all.
No.
But it sounds like at least you were open.
I was. And I through my life, so I moved a lot growing up. My dad's job relocated him a lot. I'm not an Army brat, even though
Okay.
I moved like one. And so I think I moved 11 times, K through 12. Or yeah, like it was every year and a half. The longest I ever lived anywhere was 3 years. And so I think in that process, I learned how to watch and learn other people and like what's normal, how do people interact, what's going on, like, is this a place to be loud and funny, or is this a place to like be still and
Wow.
serious? And so I have this I believe it's discernment. I believe it's a gift now that God has given me, but like this discernment observation where I'm like watching and learning. And I was watching people who were hand up Heisman to older, maybe more experienced people, even if it was just a year.
Yeah.
And I was like, it doesn't look like it's working out for them. Like it doesn't look like it's working out for them. And so I had those thoughts and those dialogues within myself, and I was like, that doesn't look like it's going well.
Right.
There has to be another way. And so some of that I think allowed me to be more open. And I think that God placed people that gave me, well, I actually went to a conference a few weeks ago, truth tellers, right? He placed some truth tellers in my life that would call me out. And I didn't like it, but it was good for me. I needed it. And even now, many years removed from that, I look back and I'm like, wow, that person that spoke truth that I was, mad at or annoyed at because of that, like that changed me.
Yeah.
Like that helped me dramatically. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Wow. Yes, I think I like your transparency in that. Like it wasn't full on, but at the same time, in a season of constant transition, I was able to use the gift that God has given me, which is to watch
To watch, listen.
and listen.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think if we could do more of that, it would probably help us to not make some of the decisions we make.
Mm-hmm.
Because in your field, what I believe is that, and that's what y'all do. You watch. It's funny. I'm kind of replaying some moments where I think I've had to do therapy over like FaceTime or something, or
Yeah. The virtual.
And the therapist's like, yeah, you can just see him just looking, just watching the body language. Like, let me watch your face, and y'all are listening for the influctuation of the tone or the change of the body language. You're looking for, and I call it like the 5 T's. It's a teaching that I've kind of adopted from therapy, but there's biblical foundation and roots to it. It's when you're having a conversation with someone, you're depending on the time of that conversation, because you can have a therapy session with the same person at a different time of the day and you're going to get a different outcome.
100%. Yeah.
Right. And then you're listening for the tone. And my therapist mentioned this thing called like dropping breadcrumbs. And I was like, y'all are sneaky. Y'all are sneaky. Drop a breadcrumb to see does my tone change when you bring up a certain topic.
You know who else is a truth teller? The body.
Yes.
The body, the
Yeah.
tone,
Are
like
you
it
are you
tells you.
shifting, or
Yeah.
are you leaning in, you leaning back, or and
Uh-huh.
so um my therapist would gave me some gold. I was like, really? The tone, and then temperature. Well, actually it'd be temperature first, which is really just reading the gauge, the body
Sure.
language. That's the
Yeah.
temperature. The tone, listening to um, how I communicate in regards to, am I finishing my thoughts, or am I searching to try to like dance around it? Am I speaking my normal tone? Am I a little bit higher in that tone,
Mm-hmm.
lower, um, and then the technique of for the therapist usually would be the breadcrumbs, the technique of
Yeah.
how to really pull out of me what I want to be pulled out,
Yeah.
right? And so I think that it's cool that you've been able to, I won't say bounce, but God put you, he trusted that he could give your father jobs that would move you in different locations, that will put you in certain situations that will give you revelation
Yeah.
like that. Like
Yeah.
I know a lot of people that's moved around that were like military brats,
Yeah.
but like it seems like you have clear wisdom of like, man, even though we moved, I didn't get a normal childhood to grow up with people
Mm-hmm.
for my entire childhood like most kids do.
Right.
I don't know what the percentage is, but there's a large population of people that don't move that much. And they're able to glean from that. But
Mm-hmm.
you're like, you know what? I even still found the good in that.
Yeah.
Because I was on this side of the world, and this is how people do life. Their mental health is different than
Oh yeah.
that's like the East Coast. Oh, they move at a different speed. Because I was raised in Philadelphia a little bit. And then we got to Texas. I'm just like, what are you doing? Why y'all moving so slow? Why are you listening so slow?
Yeah.
Because people always say, why are you talking so fast? I'm like, no, why are you listening so slow? I'm not talking fast. You're listening slow. Right?
Yeah.
And you get to Texas and things are a little bit more laid back and a little bit slower, and and you meet somebody from California, just like, okay, you're weird. Like
What's happening over there?
like what are y'all doing over there? Is everybody hippies over there?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know? And so because everything's just so relaxed, man. It's like I'm
Ain't nowhere to be.
right?
Nothing to do.
Nothing to do, and so
I don't get speeding tickets in Dallas. You know how many speeding tickets in South Carolina?
Man.
They're like, where are you going? Well, I'm just having a good day.
right?
Sir.
Yeah, things real good over here, real good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful to hear that you're able to, because not everybody can look back in their life in their childhood, like, and I think that's where I really want to jump into, because there's the 6-year-old me when I learned about the 6-year-old me,
Mm,
and then there's the 10-year-old me. That's different than a 6-year-old me, because there's certain things that happen in these stages of life that once I was able to tap into and understand what I was walking through, it gave me freedom
yeah.
from the unknown.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why do I respond this way?
Right. The why
Right?
of
Because I
uh-huh.
don't know if it was Bree Brown, phenomenal author. I think it was, but she was mentioning in one of her books, I believe it was Bree Brown, I could be wrong, but there was an author that was just speaking to saying like, hey, sometimes when you see someone react, that might be the 5-year-old or 10-year-old person
Ms.
that has not
Brene,
been
yeah.
healed.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like, excuse me, ma'am? How dare you say that?
Are you speaking to me like
He's
that?
speaking to my 5-year-old. You don't even know him. She's
Yeah.
like, yeah, but you don't know him either. I was like,
Eh,
oh.
uh-huh.
And I believe what I'm hearing is like, not to say the childhood was perfect, but you were able to, you've been able to look back and take the good that God has did in your life in those seasons. And now it's actually helping you in this season to be able to
100%.
help people
Mm-hmm.
that have been traumatized.
Mm-hmm.
And some of it may have been from sex, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so what would you say for the listener that's watching
Yeah.
this, like when it comes to, our, as a Christian, because you were a Christian, like you
Yeah.
said, you grew up in a Christian household, because we have people that have grown up in these fields, and they're doing things that they have no idea that it may be tracking back to a root that a seed was planted unwillingly because of someone else or something they were exposed to
Yeah.
when they were a child.
Yeah.
And they're like, man, I can't break this, or I don't know where this is coming from, and I don't want to do therapy. Like therapy is like, how can therapy help me?
Yeah. So I believe, right, that God can and does reveal himself. He reveals our wounds. He can reveal those things to us. And I believe that, like, Jesus' grace is sufficient.
Yeah.
Okay. That is salvation,
Right.
right? Is belief in the resurrection and death of Jesus, and then the grace that he has given us in our sin. And confessing and admitting to that and following Jesus. That is how salvation. And God gave us marvelous, magnificent brains. Okay.
I did not know. So let's stop right there real quick, because I'm gonna let you go. But it wasn't. This is where, don't come for me. COVID was listeners. I'm just gonna preference this. COVID was a very traumatic season of my life, but it also was one of the most teachable seasons of my life, because I learned about the brain through Dr. Caroline Leaf.
It's like, she's brilliant. Yeah.
Like, I watched every podcast she did during COVID because I had time on my hands.
Yeah. Lots of time. Mm-hmm.
I read several of her books, and I was like, the brain is this powerful?
Oh, it's
And this is on the other side of doing, that would have been like 16 years of counseling.
yeah.
So I had already been doing counseling, and I did not know the mind was that powerful.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It's powerful. And so and God designed it that way. Okay. Right.
so you're saying God designed the mind.
God designed the mind
Uh-oh.
in its magnificence and how it operates. Okay. It's not a coincidence that we love to make meaning of things as people, and then Jesus told stories and parables. Okay.
Come on. That is so good.
Right.
You have to run that back. Say it again. Say
It
it
is
again.
not a coincidence.
Not a coincidence.
that we make meaning of things as people, right? And that Jesus told us stories through parables and taught us things through parables. We need meaning. Our brains are designed that way,
Right.
right? And so, and the meaning making we have is powerful.
So you mean to tell me my thoughts aren't just random and just for no, like, I probably can have those, but when I have like these moments where I'm like, whoa, that is,
Mm-hmm. The story we tell ourselves is the language I use, right? So I drove down here today, right?
okay.
And I prayed for good traffic. Prayed for good traffic.
Right.
And it was great. But should I come upon, backup or a wreck or something like that, what am I going to tell myself about it? This always happens to me. I can never catch a break.
Wow.
This is a beautiful day, and I pray that those people are okay. Right? What am I telling myself about what's happening around
Should've
me
dropping some bars
to
on
be?
us.
So and that's what the brain does with everything.
What is what is
Constantly.
that process called? I can't remember. No, it's like the rewiring of the mind or the brain.
Yes.
The neural pathways.
What
is
fires together, wires together is like the little
Ooh.
saying.
Ooh.
The trauma saying, what fires together, wires together.
Right.
And that is especially true with sex when we start talking about that. Like our sexual template and our arousal template that gets created.
Okay.
What fires together, wires together.
Wow.
And so if we pair up things that we don't want paired up,
Uh-oh.
synapses are happening. And now our brain is like, well, they're paired. This is what happens. Okay. It's a dangerous. Now we can unlearn,
Right.
but that's harder.
Yeah.
It's harder to unlearn and relearn than to learn
Once you're
correctly.
exposed, it's very difficult to be unexposed.
Right. Right.
King David,
King David.
he was like, man, I got me some chicken mini biscuits. Just woke up from my nap.
Yeah, what was that?
Pew.
Yeah.
Person sends back, that's such and such wife. Pew. Send her anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And then now that he finds himself sleeping with Bathsheba, and that wiring started with what his mind saw.
Yep.
And then what he said led to actions. Because it's not the attraction that's the sin, it's the action.
No. There are lots of beautiful people out there.
Yeah.
Lots of beautiful people. That is not sinful to go, that person is beautiful.
Right.
God created them beautifully.
Yeah.
Right? We call one of my mentors, he has since passed, was Dr. Doug Rosenell.
Okay.
And he writes his like ministry and his work was on single sexuality. And he was like, we are called to see people as 3D beings: mind, body, and spirit.
Wow.
So if I look at someone, I'm like, they're beautiful, but I also go, oh, they're a child of God. Are my thoughts going to get too impure there?
That's my sister. That's my brother.
Yes,
right.
in Christ, and they are beautiful.
Right.
But it helps us to see their spirit too. Yeah. They're not just a body. They're not just a mind.
That's good.
There's a soul to them.
I think that's huge. What you're saying, like we have to see the spirit. If we only look at the body,
we miss the person.
We do.
Yeah, and our bodies are so. A lot of the work I do too with EMDR is chronic pain, or people that are suffering with pain. I'm like, our bodies they fail us.
Yeah.
They fail. It feels like they fail us. And at the end of the day, like our bodies, go into the earth. Our souls live on into eternity. And so like our soul is what matters.
Right.
And we are to take care of the temple, the body that God gave us.
Come on.
Right? Which includes the mind and the body. So what we eat, what we do, how we exercise. And then also, obviously, what we do to our mind and our brain and how we take care of that as well.
So critical.
Yeah.
So critical. So for our listeners, our viewers that are in a space of, if I did therapy, how do I know that this is biblical? How do I know that this is this really, does this exist in the Bible? Because there's that scenario. I did my due diligence of research, and actually I think Dr. Caroline Leaf kind of helped me, so I'm not going to say like I did it and then I just went and just, well, okay, let me just see. You dropped that out there. Let me just go and see. And then there's been some other pastors and therapists that went the exact same route.
Sure.
You mentioned God created the mind, and he's created us in His image. What would be your advice, maybe, or not even advice? What are your thoughts when you hear that? Of like, is this biblical? Is therapy, and because you even mentioned parables from Jesus. Like Jesus was a therapist. He was a therapist.
The great counselor.
Like,
come on, like, yeah.
Like we use that in the Bible. He's the counselor. So, and we have the Holy Spirit in us. Why wouldn't He bless therapists with the gift to counsel people, or even pastors? So, help us, sis. To have a better, have maybe a different perspective of that.
Yeah. So there's the full range of therapy too, right? So we have like lay counselors, right? Or pastoral counselors, right? And they're usually through churches or through ministries. And they are oftentimes much more scripturally based, right? Like your Bible's going to be open every session, which is beautiful and wonderful. I'm a fan of let's have it all. Let's have a mentor and a biblical counselor and a professional counselor, right? When we get into the professional realm, I advertise as faith-based. I've gone to Christian universities that have taught me integration of psychology and theology. So I've had theology courses, and you don't have to have all that to be a biblically based, therapist. But so I advertise that for one, right? And then I also ask. And as a participant, as a client, I would invite you to ask, right?
Right.
Do you incorporate faith? How so? Are you okay with my faith? Right? And that can open the door. I'm a big proponent of that's part of the therapist's job and duty too.
Okay, we got to park.
Yeah.
We got to park.
I know I'll be talking fast. You guys
No,
slow
no,
me
no,
down.
no, 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 no. No, you're good because, like, again, I'm going back to the burger conversation. Like, I think it's important that we ask, do you hey, do y'all have over easy eggs to put on my burger? Right? Like, I don't see
That's
it on
a
the
good
menu,
topping.
but come on. Like,
Good choice.
I know y'all have eggs for the morning menu, but do you just by chance have an egg in the back to put on my burger?
Yeah.
You know, so why not ask, like, hey, do you incorporate faith into this? Are you okay with me being a Christian and being your client?
Yeah.
Like there's nothing wrong with that. I love that.
Yeah. Ask for what you need and what you want.
Right.
And then the therapist, as a therapist, like I'll check in and say, hey, how do you want spirituality or faith incorporated into your like therapy? And then I am okay with whatever the person decides because it's their therapy.
Right.
Now, I'm going to be praying for them on my own time.
Come on.
Okay.
Let's go.
I also, a lot of what we teach lines up biblically. So I'm teaching biblical principles.
Right.
I'm not saying, hey, this is from Hosea, right? Like
Right.
I'm not, because they don't want it incorporated, but the premises of it are still true for humanity, right? So we can apply that. A lot of my clients do want it. They identify as believers, or they're like, hey, maybe I'm not a Christian, but like I'm open to whatever you have to say about that. I'm like, beautiful. And so I always ask. I'm very much, I tell my, I'm like, you can tell me no. Yeah. First off, foremost, use the word no. I'm not going to get offended. I will honor and respect your boundary. I'm going to be curious with you about what the boundary is doing for you and how it's protecting you.
Right.
But I'm not going to cross it.
So good.
Or push on it. And so I'll ask, hey, can I share something with you that I learned this week in my Bible study? Or, hey, this has been on my heart. I think God's asking me to share it with you. Would you mind? I always ask.
Wow. So good.
Right? Like I'm gonna ask, and most of the time people are like, our curiosity gets us. They're like,
right. Yeah.
What is it?
Right.
You know, and that opens the doorway for me to share.
Yeah. It's so good.
For me to share that.
It's so good. I'm gonna pull up a couple verses that reminds me. Where is it at? So I think, yes, here we go. This is one in particular that gives me this thought of Jesus kind of in a therapy session with a guy. It's Mark 5.
Okay.
It says, so they arrived at the other side of the lake. This is Jesus and the disciples, I believe. Yeah. When Jesus climbed out of the boat, a man possessed with an evil spirit came out from the tombs to meet him. This, as I'm reading this is one of the most, I don't know how much I hear this ever preached, but it's a very interesting story. It says this man lived in burial caves. So lived in a cemetery.
Yeah.
Right? That's our time. And could no longer be restrained. Okay? So at some point in time, someone was trying to take him, restrain him, remove him, but it over time, no one could do it.
Yeah.
Even with a chain. Chains back then, to break out of a chain, you had to be pretty, like, unhealthy.
Yeah.
It says, whenever he was put into chains and shackles, as he often was, he snapped the chains from his wrist and smashed the shackles. He was strong enough to no one was strong enough to subdue him. Day and night he wandered among the burial caves and in the hills, howling and cutting himself. He's a cutter. And he's yelling. He's walking around a cemetery. So, like, I have to picture this because I'm a very visual person.
Mm-hmm.
There's a cemetery down the street. So I can only imagine if I'm driving up and down this particular street, and it's a pretty open field, but it's a street that's close to Chick-fil-A and a car wash. So the car wash literally connects to the cemetery.
Mm-hmm.
So I can only imagine if I'm going once a week, right, to get my car washed, or I'm going to Chick-fil-A and I see the same guy walking around yelling, who knows what, and cutting himself. He's a cutter.
Mm-hmm.
And then it says, when Jesus was some distance away, the man saw him, ran to meet him, and bowed low before him. With a shriek, he screamed to Jesus, "Why are you interfering with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? In the name of God, I beg you, don't torture me." For Jesus had already said to the spirit, "Come out of this man, you evil spirit." Then Jesus demanded, this is the part that messed me up. "What's your name?" Wait. Say what? Say what? Like, that's a counselor.
Uh-huh.
Hey,
Yeah.
what's your name, buddy? Excuse me? You're not going to ask me, like, why I'm cutting myself? You're not going to ask me why I'm yelling?
Let me know you. What's your name?
What's your name?
Yeah.
What did your parents name you? Because back then, names were, like, big.
Well, yeah, it would associate you with the tribe. It associated you, like, there was a lot.
Like,
Yeah.
this messes me up when it, like, I'm like, this was a counseling moment.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the dude ran to therapy, right? Therapy's on the way, but he ran and met therapy and was like, yo, EDMR, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's go. Like, I'm being tortured. Why are you and just like, all right, let me speak to your spirit.
Yeah.
He spoke to his spirit, like you said earlier.
Yeah.
He didn't speak to the body.
Nope.
He's okay. Go ahead. I see you. You ready? Like, tell me to be quiet.
You
Somebody tell me to be quiet. Okay, I'm stop.
Yeah, and I think, gosh, hearing that, there's a component too, and I get clients all the time, and they come in, they're like, "I'm ready to be healed. Let's do this. Where do I start? Why are you asking me who my mama is? Like, I don't." I'm like, because I need to know you.
The origin story.
I need to know you, and you need to know me a little bit.
Right.
There needs to be some trust and safety here, right?
Right.
Jesus was safety.
Right.
Like I get to participate and be safe when I'm healthy.
Right.
Right. But Jesus was safety.
Right.
So he didn't have to do
Yeah.
as much of that, but he said, "I care enough. Who are you?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, your story matters. Like, it
Yes.
matters greatly. And there's this component where the work will come. We'll do the work.
Right.
We'll do the work. It's important.
Yeah.
And if I don't know you, how can I truly sit with you?
Mm.
How can I truly sit with you and hold space for you if I don't know you? A lot of the work I do, because it's trauma work for the most part, is more long term. I'm not seeing people for 6 sessions.
Right.
Right. I'm seeing people for 6 months, 12 months, 18 months. I have a couple of clients on my caseload that 2+ years. They have complex trauma stories.
Right.
But like and we don't necessarily meet weekly throughout that whole time.
Mhm.
Like we ebb and flow as they
Right.
need.
Again, going back to like some therapy, like Jesus, like, look, and what I know with therapy is you're not going to force. You're going to do what is best. Like let's walk through this. What are you thinking you need right now? So Jesus gave them permission. The spirits, the evil spirits, came out of the man and entered into the pigs. The entire herd, about 2,000 pigs, plunged into the steep hillside into the lake and drowned in the water. The herdsmen fled. Here we go. People, when you start to impact people's wealth, they're going to have a problem with this. So they weren't concerned with the man. They were concerned with the money. The herdsmen fled to a nearby town, surrounding the countryside, spreading the news as they ran. People rushed out to see what had happened. A crowd soon gathered around Jesus and saw the man who they had seen possessed by the legion of demons. He was sitting there fully clothed. So going back to the beginning part of this text, not only was he roaming around a burial grave, but he was naked.
He was naked. Yeah.
And it says they see him fully clothed and perfectly sane. And they were all afraid. Like, hold on. Now you're afraid that this man is in his right mind and he's clothed.
Now you're scared.
Now you're scared.
Yeah.
So you would prefer for him to like stay away and stay crazy.
But they were comfortable with him cutting himself
Yeah.
and screaming.
Yeah. And I think what happens I view my like a therapist's job is to offer acceptance. The definition I use for acceptance is from the book called People Fuel by John Townsend.
John Townsend is a goat,
He's great.
especially when he's combined with Henry Cloud. Boy,
Yeah.
they can mess you up.
But he defines acceptance as connection without judgment.
Woo.
No praise, no blame. So we're not praising either. Okay, so I'm not praising you because now you're clothed and insane.
Oh,
I'm not blaming you because you're naked and hurting yourself.
wow.
Acceptance is no matter how you come, I can hold space for you. Okay. So it's of course they were shocked because they didn't have acceptance for him before.
Oh my God.
They don't know how to do acceptance. Jesus did. Jesus came, said, "Who are you?" Right? But like the people, I don't get to turn off acceptance when it
Wow.
fits me. I'm still judgmental. I'm just judging that you're good now.
Let me read this next sentence.
God.
Let me read this next sentence. It says, "Then those who had seen what happened told the others about the demon-possessed man." Again, they didn't tell him about they didn't give him his name. They still haven't given him his name. And the pigs. So they're talking about the demon-possessed man and the pigs.
Yeah.
And it says, "And the crowd began pleading with Jesus to go away and leave them alone." What are we doing? What? This
Okay.
dude has been terrorizing your town, cutting himself. Now he's healed. And y'all like, Jesus, you and him got to go. It's too much. It's too much. Did you see why we need counseling?
We need
The
counseling.
crowd needs counseling. Like, what are we doing?
That is profound.
It is, yeah.
I'm not, go ahead, because I feel like he's about to say something, because there's more. Because they acting up.
This just goes to show, and I know we all have phrases, so I'm sure everyone's heard of a phrase like this, but like misery loves company, like those type of things.
There it is.
We will suffer in what we know before we step into faith and heal in what we don't know.
Wow.
I will choose to suffer every day because I know that suffering. So I'll choose it because the unknown is scary. And I have to step out in faith and in healing to do that. And so people, no. I'll stay here. I'll
Okay.
stay with the man
Okay.
running around by himself.
Okay. You just unlocked something for me that I have not seen in this text. So if we're not careful, we could see God heal somebody and not accept them for the new creation
Mm-hmm.
because we don't want to step out on faith and trust that he has that power.
Yeah.
Like they're complaining and asking Jesus to plead. It says the crowd began pleading with Jesus to go away and leave them alone. Wait, stay because we see that you're working in miracles.
Tell us what you did. Tell us what you can do.
But they're pleading
Yeah.
for him to leave, not knowing that, man, the less people that are walking around unhealthy, the less pigs have to be falling off the hillside.
Mhm.
The
Thousands of pigs.
thousands, that's money. That's a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
The less people walking around burial caves cutting themselves, the less time we got to spend trying to subdue him. So they missed the ministry moment
Yes.
with the greatest of all teachers. Let me read the rest of this. It says, as Jesus was getting into the boat, the man who had been demon possessed begged to go with him. This dude was like, look, I'm not staying here with these people.
We gotta go.
They-
Gotta go.
Yeah. They didn't get it. They didn't see what you did to me. So can I go with you?
Fair
But
enough.
Jesus said no. And I would have been heartbroken. Like, no.
Mhm.
Jesus said no.
There's some pain there. Yeah.
Jesus said no. Go home and tell your family everything that the Lord has done for you and how merciful he has been. Like, sometimes the therapy that we go through, we have to understand that it's not just for us.
No.
I don't know how long this man had been walking through this season, But if he walks back into the doors of his house and his family sees him clothed and fully in his right mind, talk about generational chains getting broken.
Yes. Yes.
Wow. And it says, so the man started off to visit the 10 towns of that region and began to proclaim the great things Jesus had done for him. And everyone was amazed at what he told them. Jesus was like, look, I'm going this direction, but you got work to do.
Mm-hmm. I also want to point something out, and I've never thought about this in this passage until you just read it out loud for me. The people that knew him didn't believe it.
They missed it.
They missed it. He had to go and tell other people, and they believed him.
Oh, the ones that were there the whole time
The ones
and
that
saw it.
They didn't believe it. They didn't want any part
He
of it.
went off a visit, so he's not even near these people
Yeah,
anymore.
the 10 towns, right? And I don't know how far the towns were from each other, but like,
Oh my God.
he had to go for them to believe. The people that knew him did not believe it. And they saw the stark difference, right?
That is scary.
Yeah. You read that and I was like, ooh, hold on. Right. Okay. Going back to what you said earlier, our younger parts,
Yes.
right? Sometimes I always laugh. My 15-year-old self she was a little mouthy. Okay. She had a little attitude on her. She thought she was real smart. She was witty. She was
Okay.
quick. And
It's paying off now, though. It's paying off now, right? Paying off
yes.
now.
But she wouldn't let someone talk to her. Like she would, mom, dad, teammates, coach, it doesn't matter. She'd pipe off to them.
Okay.
Okay. If I went back to my old town, which I moved a lot, but if I went back to that old town that I was in 10th grade in, however old you are at 15, yeah,
Right.
and asked them and told them I was a therapist, they'd probably be like, really?
Tell me how that's working for you.
Really, right? Because what we do is we remember the people that we saw at that time. We forget the ability of God to change, and and that people choose to change. It's hard work to change.
It is.
It's hard work to change, but we can choose that.
Yes.
And like we forget that people can choose that. So we have this memory of people. So I'm sure some kids I went to high school with are like, "What? Like you always had a smart aleck comment."
Okay, so let me confirm what you're saying. So I'm in a middle school. Was this last week? I think it was last week. And I'm getting ready to walk out, and I see somebody I went to school with here, and she's like, "Hey." You know, you get that like,
yeah.
and they're like, okay, is that the same guy that I remember? Because, like he was on. And the last time I saw this young lady, it was sophomore year. I had just gotten into a fight, got kicked out the district. Okay. And so I hadn't seen her since then. And we just get to talking, and she's just like, "You're different." And I'm like, "Okay, is that a good thing?"
Yeah.
She's like, "Yeah, I don't know. Just, you seem happy." And I was like, "Man, you have no idea how much work I've done to get here."
Mm-hmm.
She's like, "The last time I saw you," I was like, No. Those 2 years I wasn't there. She was like, "Really?" It's like, "Yeah, I got kicked out the district." What? So I named the person. She was like, "Y'all got into I got into a fight. And they kicked me out the district." And I said, the interesting piece is most people don't know that I was walking through something in that season. And what he did was just the tip on the iceberg. Like it just cracked. And I just I think Tim Ross or I can't remember who says, what doesn't come up and out of your mouth comes up and out in your actions.
Yep.
And so I reached a boiling point where this particular guy was kind of bullying me, and I just kind of got tired of it. But there was some stuff that was rooted.
Yeah.
Some seeds that have been planted, and it led me to respond where I could not be subdued. And I might have not been cutting myself physically, but emotionally and mentally, I was in a dark place. But on the outside, it looked like I was fully clothed and sane. Because people had seen it for so long, it had become normal to them.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so now when people see me, we just went out of town and I spoke, and I even had relatives, people just like, the person I remembered would just walk up and knock a dude out because I was angry.
Yeah.
But it took me work to realize what was going on in that season that had me in a place of howling and feeling comfortable being in a dark place.
Yeah.
And through therapy, I was able to identify that there was a little boy that was traumatized multiple times and went through some things and had never been healed from that.
Yeah.
And so I always chuckle, laugh, like it humors me when people have no idea, like therapy isn't a one session fix all. Like it's work. And if you're willing to do the work, like on the other side of it, man, it is life-changing.
It is life-changing.
And I truly believe that like this man got to go to these other towns and share. Like people, I've been walking around in a burial cave.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very dark place. There's nothing positive about a cemetery because you're grieving and remembering the memories of a loved one, and that was his home. He had made that place a home.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how bright the sun is, that's still a dark environment. Yeah. And then he's cutting himself. So I don't know if it was triggers that was, happening when he's walking around that's causing him to cut. Like it didn't tell us that, but I can tell you it doesn't sound like he was having a pleasant time there.
No.
And then people were trying to subdue him, so he's going through physical restraints and altercations. So there's nothing positive about that. And now he has an encounter and somebody says, "What's your name?" And through therapy, I believe that those are the experiences I had. Was like, "Hey, tell me about the 6-year-old.
Yeah.
Tell me about the 10-year-old."
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry.
Because I think part of it too is like, all right, I'm sitting across from you and I'm like, hey, you matter. Tell me your story. Right. But what I think if you're not in therapy or have not been before, what you don't know just because you haven't experienced it is I go, tell me about 6-year-old Sly. What was he into? What did he like? I have a 5-year-old son right now, and he likes monster trucks, and Transformers, and cars, big crashing things.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, destroy.
Yes,
crash, blow up.
Right. So there's this component. That's right. But that's an important part of who he is.
Right.
And so when he's 20, 30, 40, and I'm when he's in therapy, I hope he goes.
Yeah.
Because I'm not a perfect parent. There's life is life.
Life is, yes.
There is sin and shame everywhere.
Yeah.
It's okay if he go. I'm all for him going to therapy to take care of what he needs to. As much as I try to protect and care for him well.
Yeah.
I'm like, I want him to go, yeah, I loved this at 6. This was cool for me. I want to know that little boy. And the 15-year-old girl, and that I want to know all parts of you that make up who you are today.
Yeah.
Because they do. They make up who you are today. Because without your 6-year-old boy going through what he did go through, right, you would not have a heart to serve the youth the way you do today, I bet. Yeah.
It 100%, because, and even as I'm listening to this, I've meet so many that cannot connect to that 5, 6, 7-year-old kid because it's locked in a room. I think you know where I'm going with this. It's locked in a room, right? And what therapy helped me to do is to open the door, identify, get help, get healed, and then go to work.
Yeah. And
you meet so many people that you can tell, and you said you sit and you watch, and you can almost tell, yeah, the 10-year-old, what happened?
Yeah.
Because that's from the 10-year-old. That's why you're behaving that way.
Yeah.
That's the 7-year-old that season of life that happened, and you never told anyone.
Yeah.
And now you're doing that because you think that's going to help you hide it.
Yeah.
Or you have convinced yourself this is how you heal it.
Yeah. There's a great analogy I have. You're a visual person, so I hope
Yes.
this will be good.
Give it to
so
me.
I use it on my clients. So I have like a charter bus. Okay. And Mallory is a charter bus. Okay. And ideally, present day Mallory, who has had her driver's license for quite a while and who knows the laws and the speed limits and all that, is driving the bus.
Okay.
Sometimes, though, when someone says something or when I'm really dysregulated because something happened, my little 6-year-old comes up. She's like, move over. And she jumps in the front of the charter bus and starts driving the bus, which is probably not a great thing. But that 6-year-old goes, no, I can do whatever I want to do. I'm capable. I don't need help. I'm independent. I'm all by myself, right? Which for a 6-year-old is very developmentally appropriate.
Yep.
Right? I can do it all by myself. It's not real life, right?
Right.
We all need help. But like that 6-year-old hops in, adult Mallory steps to the side, and now my 6-year-old's making my decisions for me. That's not okay. That's not good. It's gonna be a rough ride. We're gonna be all over the road. See my imagery?
Whoa. So yes, this is what, when you say 6-year-old, most 6-year-olds, girls, are probably playing with Barbie cars.
Yep.
6-year-old
Or
boys
baby dolls, Barbie doll. Mm-hmm.
are playing with Jeeps or race cars, whatever it is. So they're learning to deal with their frustration by using those, but then find themselves behind the vehicle of behind the wheels of a real vehicle, but they're operating it like it's their toy.
Yes.
Which is why like play therapy is so beneficial. But you got a kid that can barely touch the gas pedal
And see over the steering wheel at the same time.
So what he does is he compromises his view
Yeah.
to reach the acceleration.
Right.
And now he's driven off road.
And
then by the time help comes, the 20 or 15 or 20-year-old is back in the driver's seat wondering, how did I flip this charter bus?
Yep. So in my charter bus, right, I got all my parts. I have my 3-year-old see me part that wants to sing and dance all the time, right? I have my 6-year-old, I have my 12-year-old, my 15-year-old, my 21-year-old. I have all these parts and they're all on the bus. What therapy can do, specifically EMDR, is it opens that door and I go, oh, hello to all of you. Okay, now we're all on the bus together, and today I am aware that they're on there. Yeah. So sometimes my 6-year-old comes up and goes, oh, let me drive. And I go, hey, baby, you're not going to drive anymore, but you can sit in the passenger seat and remind me of your story so I can make a good decision in this.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Can we pause right there?
Wait. We are going to pause. So let's do this because I want to. I need to. If you're watching this, my prayer is that you have been locked in and enjoying this conversation, because this has been really good so far. But I think we're about to go deep, because I want to unpack some stuff that like EMDR helped me with. And it's not that we're going to have a therapy session, but I truly believe that there are some things that students, young adults, even older adults are walking through that once if they can just understand this concept, that it's going to be life-changing. Yeah. And maybe you never even go, but just maybe understanding that there's a you inside of you that you haven't met yet that needs to be healed.
Yes. And all of us.
Mm-hmm. And if you are just even aware of that could help you with making one step further in your relationship with Jesus better. That can help you with one step further with reconciling and redeeming and healing relationships with your family and your friends. And so if you're watching this, please share. If you feel like this content has been of some benefit, but we're about to go, what I feel like is into a deeper level, right? We're about to go out. We're about to push out from the shore and go a little bit deeper. Yep. So just buckle your seatbelt. Again, if you are, if you're at work and you're in maybe you're in the break room, you might want to go to your car. And if you are a student, or a parent watching this, there may be, who knows? I don't know. We're because I'm gonna challenge us to really talk about this topic of intimacy and sex that so many young people are struggling with.
Yeah.
And so just giving you a disclaimer. We might even put a little thing up there, disclaimer, to let you know where we're about to go.
Yeah.
Because I want to make sure that we are preparing our hearts and our minds for the level of just deepness that we're about to go. So we're gonna do this. Take a minute, grab your Bible, because I'm gonna challenge us to a couple scriptures. I want you to pray that you just receive this information. If you need to go potty, go do that now. Right? Actually, I might go do that myself. Right? But yes, let's just get ready because I'm going to challenge this. So do that now. Let's take like a 2-minute break, and then we will come back and we're going to talk a little bit deeper because I want to get into this conversation about how sexual encounters too early can wire our minds in the wrong way of how we see ourselves, we see others, and how we see God.
Mm-hmm.
If we can. So, hey,
Let's
we
do
love
it.
you. We'll be back here shortly in just a second. Peace. Hey, welcome back. I hope that your coffee break, your potty break, your
Stretch your legs. Break.
stretch your legs. Let me go into the break room and maybe find me some Topo Chico or something. We hope that moment was good because we are getting ready to push out into the deep. And so before we get there, I just want you to know that me and my sister just talked, and prior to us even coming on this podcast, our goal is for anyone that's watching this to know we don't have all the answers,
No.
right? We're not claiming that. We do have some experience that we believe that through our transparency and vulnerability, we would hope that you would allow this conversation to pique your interest and become curious about Jesus and therapy. And so I would love to unpack the EMDR a little bit more, right? So let me give you how I stumbled upon it. And my first session, I don't like it was
These are my favorite stories.
So I remember watching Pastor Tim Ross. So he was talking about it. I'm like, what is that? So I'm like Googling, and I'm like, okay, my next session, I'm gonna ask about that. That therapist didn't quite do it, so I ended up finding another therapist. And I didn't know what to expect because he didn't really go into detail. He was just like raving about it, right? And so I'm like, all right, well, and then even when you ask, y'all don't really give a whole bunch.
It's hard to explain.
Because you can't, right?
It's hard, yeah.
And so, like, I get there, first session, we don't go straight into it. We kind of use some just very basic techniques and stuff like that. And so I come out of there, I was just like, okay, well, this is kind of like therapy. I don't know what the difference is. And get to the second session, and we didn't use any devices or anything. We just used, I just used my hands, tapping on the shoulder and just. I don't know if I'm supposed to give away all the things I use or not. Is that okay? Okay, all right. Yeah, so I won't get in trouble. So go to the second one, and I have in my mind we're gonna do the same thing. Now the first one kind of unlocked some stuff because we're talking and my eyes are closed and I'm just like, whoa.
It's a little. I say this all the time. A little woo woo.
Yeah, so
She's like, what happened?
and here's what I remember leaving there, and I was like, we only did that for like 5 minutes, but I was exhausted. I had a meeting after, and I was like, oh boy. Because my counseling sessions with people sometimes are like 2 hours. And so I'm like, I'm in trouble. And if I'm honest, like I fought through that one because I was still processing what had just happened.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, we won't do that again. So no more. We're not doing that. Yeah, we're not doing that again. So go to the next one. I'm like, all right, I know what to expect now. Nope. Pull out the tappers, and I had to go lay down. Like, luckily, my daughter didn't have to get picked up for like 4 hours. But even when I picked her up, the rest of the day, I was wiped. But the next day, I was like, oh, this feels so good.
It's like you could breathe.
Yes.
Yeah.
And part of me had to, I had to work through not feeling as if prior to this that my time was wasted, because it wasn't. But I had to.
Correct.
I
Yeah.
believe it just set me up,
Mm-hmm.
and prepared me for this.
You were probably able to jump into the tapping part of EMDR, which I can explain a little bit like what that means, but quicker
Right.
because you had done so much work through talk
Yes.
therapy and other things.
And she had said that.
Yes.
She was like, "You're further along than most people."
Yes.
She's like, "'Cause a lot of times it takes me weeks and
you
sessions
got
to
to build
get."
up to that
you
to
know,
make
and
sure
so-
that you can handle
Yeah.
the intensity of it.
And she had said, like, you're very, like, you've done a lot of work tracking back to do the work to get you to where you're at right now.
Yes.
She's like, most people are not in that. And she's like, the years, so don't feel like the years of investment and all that, like it has not been a waste for you. You're able to see the return on investment of this early on, sooner than most.
Yes.
And
Yeah,
so let's talk a little bit about EMDR, and then I want to transition into, because this generation, from 7th grade, because I watch and look at statistics. 7th grade, at the average kid that is involved in pornography or sexual activity, or maybe even drugs, is starting around 6th to 7th grade. That's like the average.
Which means exposure comes 3 to 4 years before that.
Correct. Because that's what, yeah. So I wanted to make sure I'm clear, like, because they're like, and it doesn't, right now, it does not matter what social economical community you live in. It's from the most impoverished neighborhood to the most wealthiest. And what I'm also seeing is sometimes in the most wealthiest is where it's coming earlier. Yeah, I won't even go there. But
Well, sin knows no
right.
differences, right? Like it doesn't, like the world and the traps that we fall into in our flesh, they don't care how old you are,
They don't.
what color your skin is, how much your mama makes, like it don't matter.
Doesn't.
So yeah, it affects everyone. Everyone's at risk here.
So give us a brief description about EMDR, and then for those that are watching, again, we're going to have middle school, high school,
Yeah.
parents, college. We have a very large range of viewers, but I believe that it would be good for people to be more aware and understand what is available through EMDR, and then just what are some of the things you're seeing in young students, well, I say young students in general, like when it comes to the exposure and addiction and just some of the stuff that they're walking through. Because I think we as a world, I think we know, but I don't know that we fully have accepted that they're walking through some very interesting times.
I agree. Yeah. Yeah. So EMDR stands for, and you're going to want to keep it that acronym.
Yeah, because
It stands for eye movement, desensitization, and reprocessing. Okay. Just a small mouthful.
Yes.
So it was developed in the 70s as a way to help war vets originally. Was
Yes,
kind
when I
of-
saw that, I was like, that.
Yes.
Yeah, I did my research
Yes.
after my first session. I'm like, man, I'm going to look this up.
Yeah.
What they got me in here doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's lots. It is very researched and very evidence based. So if you love all the science and stuff,
stats
it's
and
there.
statistics. Yep.
It's very effective in change time wise too, right? So if we look at other modalities of therapy, whether it's talk therapy or well, and there's other experiential types. So EMDR is considered experiential therapy process, which means that you are in an experience while it's happening. That's how our brain forms.
Yo, let me stop you. Because when I say, like, when you were there,
You are in an experience.
you were in that experience. Like, you feel every part of it.
Yes.
So if there was something that happened at 6, if you're going down that hallway and you're backtracking like 14, 12, 10, 8, like you feel your body walking into almost every piece of it.
Yeah.
And if it's not healed,
I feel it. Yeah. So but that's how our brains form those synapses, what fires together, wires together, right? So it's through experience, right? So if everyone's like, what was the best day of your childhood? They were like, they can tell you usually,
Yeah.
oh, I got to go to the fair
Right.
with my with my cousin, and we had so much. And there's an experience that helped form that memory.
Yeah. So so even though there's the most challenging pieces you might walk through, there's the good. Like we went through some good things, and I'm like, yeah, I remember this, I remember
Yes.
this, and I'm like, and so you get all the feels, right?
Yes,
So
you're
yeah,
recalling all. So
yeah,
it's experiential therapy process, and it uses disassociation, which is people get real freaked out by that and a little scared. So let me just demystify it for you. So I believe through my theology and psychology, theology of psychology, that God gave us dissociation as a gift.
Mm.
Okay, disassociation occurs when the pain is too great. Okay, it is how we survive, right? So we always say, like, someone was in a really bad car wreck and they like lost their leg, and they're like, how did they survive? They dissociated from their body.
come on,
So that their mind went somewhere else, so that their body was suffering until they could get the help and they could come back. Okay, I'm not talking about like
right,
a ghost looking over
Right,
itself, right?
right.
Like I'm talking about like my mind. We dissociate all the time. You ever
Yeah.
driven home and been like, well, how did I get here?
right,
Because you were thinking about the to-do list tomorrow,
right,
right? Or you're in the shower and you're going over what you're going to eat for dinner, and you're like, have I washed my hair?
Yeah.
Have I like what?
Yeah.
I don't remember what
Yeah.
happened.
yeah,
Right? We dissociate all the time. Everyone does. And I believe that God gave that as a gift to us to survive. And so this is purposeful dissociation back to a memory to reprocess it and the trauma that occurred. Okay. We cannot change what happened. What happened, happened.
right,
What we can change is how it is held in your brain and what story, and we talked about stories earlier, what meaning making you're having from it.
Mm.
Okay, so if we use the example of the guy with the car wreck, right? He was severely injured, and the story he told himself was that he only had value if his legs worked.
Mm.
Okay, so now that his legs don't work, he has no value. And what we do is we change that narrative
Right.
because that's not true. And cognitively, if someone told you that, you go, that's not true of you. You have so much value.
right,
But when we look at ourselves, we start to believe those negative narratives. And so we change the narratives around what happened to us. And we find freedom from it by releasing some of the body trauma. Our body holds the trauma too that occurred. And that's what we talk about being in the experience. You feel it, like your
Right.
body's holding on to it. And we let it go through that. So we dissociate, and then you come back. You're not dissociating the whole hour and a
Right.
half, 2 hours, however long
Yeah.
you do the therapy session. 20 to 60 seconds at the most. That's like long. And I'm gonna go, all right, Sly, let's take a deep breath in. Let it go. What did you notice?
Mm.
And you get to tell me as much or as little as you want to about what came up for you.
Yeah.
You don't have to tell me, as long like blue. Cool, let's go with that.
right,
Right? Or I remember I was wearing a blue sweater and right? Okay, let's go with that.
that's good.
And so I am just holding and creating space and monitoring that you're still okay.
Yeah.
Because it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard to go back to those traumatic experiences.
Yeah, that's so good. That's so good. And I believe that students, well, let's just say we'll go back to 2020. There are some people that may have had things happen to them prior to 2020, during 2020, that they would prefer not to go down that path.
Sure.
But then they may wonder, like, why is life this way? Not knowing that they have identified with something that they've tried to disassociate
Mm-hmm.
on purpose, but haven't really went back to it to step into it so they can get healed, so they can
Yeah.
really see what really happened, what all happened in that space. And so what I'm learning in this season that I'm in of ministry in two different facets is that I'm coming across a lot of young men and young ladies, at younger ages than before that are walking through addictions to pornography. Even young girls that have sexual addictions that I'm like, has your body even gotten to a place where it can, like,
Yeah.
are you seeing this? Are you seeing the same thing I'm seeing? And if you are, what can we encourage this generation? Because I feel like if they don't know and if they don't get help, man, starting that early can lead down a very hard, dark, terrible path. If you have a sexual addiction and you're in high school, middle school, you've been exposed to these things, pornography, and you feel like it has a grip on you and it's your identity. It's one thing to have that as a young adult or maybe a, older man or older woman, but man, to start that soon, because years ago, to come across like a magazine or a video, that wasn't as easy as opening your phone.
Just to
to click,
Instagram.
right? 2 clicks.
You don't even have to search for it anymore.
It's facial recognition, click Instagram. So not even 2 clicks. It's really 1. Because depending on what's in your feed.
And they know.
They know.
The algorithm, whoever they is that we all know is running things with the medias.
So like how one is bleeding is a definition of how one is feeding. Like if you look at, and it's not just who you're following.
No.
It's how you're feeding. Because when you like it or you love it, basically you're telling the algorithm, like, this is satisfying my soul. And what it's going to do is say, well, great, I got a buffet for you.
Here's some more.
All you can eat.
Yep.
And I have these conversations unfortunately, with too many, and they just don't, it's not clicking. Yeah. But I think there may be something more there. So we're not in a COVID pandemic, but we're in a sexually hypersensitized, desensitized time where we've desensitized it to a point where, like, the commercials, the
ratings on movies have gone down.
Even the cartoons shows are geared towards a fake love.
Yep.
And we hype up and encourage boyfriend, girlfriend in the 10, 12, 11-year-old range. Are you seeing what I'm seeing?
Yes.
And what are your thoughts just about how we've kind of numb our kids, again, just to what sex is?
Yeah. I think it starts with the fact that we're not talking about it.
Okay.
We're not talking about sex. And here's the thing. We are naturally curious as beings, as human beings. So, and then kids' brains are developing. 26 is what the new research says before our brains are fully developed. Okay, 26 years old. Before our prefrontal cortex is fully closed.
What was it before that?
They were saying 18 back in the day, and then they were saying 21. And now they're saying 26. Because the more research we do on the brain, we're seeing. And so as a developing brain, I'm also curious, which is good. Right. Curiosity is not a bad thing. But if I have questions, I'm going to get my answers.
And nowadays you have so much more access to getting your answers.
Let me just go to Google.
Right.
Right? And so I think part of the problem and the plea that I make to parents is, let's start talking about sex now. It's never too early.
Yeah.
Never too early. And if the kid is asking, they're ready to know the answer, in my opinion. If they're going to come up and say, how are babies made?
Yeah.
I tell them. I've told my 5-year-old, you know how boys have boy parts called a penis and girls have girl parts called a vulva and a vagina?
Yeah.
Well, God created sex and physical intimacy. And so, like, now I'm not getting onto the nitty gritty, right? But, like, I answer his question.
Yeah.
Because he's curious and he goes, okay. And he's off, right?
Right.
But, like, it's never too, if they're asking, it's okay to tell them.
Yeah.
And you can keep it appropriate as far as how much detail.
Right.
But by 11, 12, 13, they know. Because their peers, social media, the internet, I mean, they know. So if they're coming to you to ask, be honest.
Yeah.
Right? But that's uncomfortable for a lot of parents.
Right.
Because they don't want to think about their children as sexual beings.
But I think we were created that way.
We were. Sex was there before the fall. Adam knew her. Right? Like, they knew each other.
Wait, that's in the book?
That's it. That's in the good book.
So it's interesting because that's in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
That's in the beginning. And we wonder why we struggle with our identity.
Yeah.
He created us in his image. In his image, he created male and female. Males have penises.
Mm-hmm.
Females have vaginas.
Mm-hmm.
And when he created us, he also created us husband for wife in the context of marriage to have sex.
Yes.
And if we would really just, like you said, have the conversation, we can even have it biblically.
Yes.
And it doesn't have to seem weird, right?
Correct. Yes.
And then it's not uncomfortable.
It is a
right?
biblical conversation.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we wouldn't have to struggle with if a child does slip up or mess up, the conversation is a lot harder if you have never had the conversation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that's where it has to start is like we have to be able to, willing, and engage in.
Yeah.
First as the adult, but even like students as you're listening, like ask.
Yeah.
Ask your parents.
Right.
Ask,
ask trusted sources,
Adults,
but
yes.
start with the parent first.
Yes.
Get approval to maybe have that with someone that is spiritually mature.
Yeah.
If you're a believer, you might not be a believer watching this, but you
Yeah.
definitely want to ask someone that's mature, not somebody that's going to tell you what they want to tell you or show you or expose you to things that you don't need to know
Right.
or need to see yet. And so
I think it's okay that peers are asking peers.
Yeah.
Right? Like I think that's okay. And your peers.
Right.
And so even me as an adult, I sometimes ask my peers, but sometimes I want to go to someone who may know more, and that oftentimes looks like someone older or wiser. Right. Sometimes it looks like someone younger, but a lot of times it's someone older. And so like, if I'm only asking my peers, I'm only getting the perspective that I already have, probably.
Yeah.
And so there's a benefit, and I encourage starting with your parents.
Yeah.
And then parents being willing to have that conversation. So I think the lack of sex education is where we start off on the wrong foot.
Well, and this is kind of a saying that I have for this podcast. It's a kingdom mindset. So I want to have a conversation with someone that has a kingdom mindset, because kingdom mindset leads to kingdom connections, and then kingdom connections lead to kingdom relationships, and kingdom relationships lead to kingdom impact. And if I want to have an impact for the kingdom, I need to make sure I'm getting wisdom from kingdom relationships.
Yes.
And those kingdom relationships come from kingdom connections, meaning, do I have a kingdom counselor? Do I have a kingdom advisor? And do they have a kingdom mindset?
Yes.
And too often we just go and because so many people have so much to say, but so many people aren't really saying much because they aren't living by the book.
Right.
Right. Or they're taking it and they're using it to advance their agenda, not to advance
the story
his
they
kingdom.
have.
Right.
Versus the story he has.
And it's real easy because we might not, like it, if I'm going to listen to someone my age or maybe even younger, I'm going to always refer it back to the Bible.
Yes.
So, okay, great. Tell me that, but let's go to Genesis and let me see, does that line up?
Yes.
So if you're telling me that you're my friend and I need to entertain that DM, does that line up with his word?
Yeah.
Because the reality is I may have an attraction to her, right? Young men, young women, attraction is not the problem.
No.
It's the action,
Mm-hmm.
right? And we naturally have a desire, right?
Yeah.
Am I on? Because we're gonna have desires. Young men are gonna go through these
Yes.
stages. Young women are gonna go through these stages, and young women are going through these stages earlier. You
Yeah.
know, like from what I'm hearing and learning, like young women are reaching these stages earlier,
Yeah.
and their bodies are forming, and young men are having these urges and desires. But we have to make sure that we understand what the desire is, where it comes from.
Yeah.
It's not a bad thing, but we also need to use it wisely.
Yeah. And here's a good differentiation that I think is important. So we have arousal and then we have desire.
Okay, let's talk about that.
They're different.
Okay.
Okay. So desire is that innate drive or want to.
Okay.
Okay. So the desire I have for running a 5K is from the same place that my sexual desire comes from.
Okay.
Okay. So desire comes from that like drive. So we have higher desire people, we have lower desire people.
Right.
We have higher desires for sex, we have lower desire for sex for people, and that's just their desire. That's okay.
Right.
Okay.
That's how we're wired.
It's how we're wired.
Your desire is how you're wired. Got it.
Love that. Good. Your
Okay,
desire
let's
is how you're
go.
wired.
Let's go.
Then we have arousal. Arousal is a physiological response that our body shifts into and lights up on.
Okay.
Okay. So I can have desire and not have arousal.
Mm.
I can have arousal and not have desire. Or I can have both, or I can have neither.
Wow.
Okay. So arousal is different. Okay. It is healthy, physiologically healthy for young men and women to become aroused 2 to 7 times a day.
Okay. All right. So here we go.
Okay.
Let's pull over. Let's pull over. Let me just make sure we got enough time. How we doing on time? Okay. So let's consider the stages of life that that we're in right now. You are in school. I don't know if young men are built different these days. Like I'm seeing young men walk around with 18 packs. I'm like, average kid like 6 foot these days, you know? Young women see the 18 pack and, you know, you have young women that are fully developed.
Mm-hmm.
That could be challenging.
Yeah.
And it doesn't help that we don't wear any clothes anymore to school. I said it. Like it's wild. Like I'm like, what are we doing?
Back in the day, I couldn't even wear spaghetti straps. You know,
Like, man,
so I'm like,
is.
there's no, yeah.
So and I'm not knocking because I don't want anybody
No.
like, oh, he said no. Look. This is just the season of life we're in, right?
Yeah.
But what I do want to maybe unpack is like it doesn't help, right? So if I naturally have arousal and desire, and then there are things that my eyes will naturally desire when I see it. If I'm really hungry, and I walk into a room, and there's Chick-fil-A there, and Chick-fil-A is something that like I desire, and if it's on the table and I'm hungry and nobody's around, I'm probably gonna eat that Chick-fil-A.
Or at least pursue it. Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
how does one as a counselor, sex therapist, like how do you help students with this?
Yeah.
Because I can imagine that this has to be difficult for them,
Yeah.
and I think they need help.
Yeah. So, and I'm going to use this word, and I think it's thrown around a lot and often misused.
Okay.
But objectification.
Okay.
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 So making an object out of something.
Mm.
Okay. That person that may have that great body, or that person that may be super cute or whatever, is a person.
It's a person.
They have that 3D we talked about, right?
Right.
Mental, physical, and spiritual, that soul part of them. What happens often is we reduce sexuality to objectification. To ourselves, to others. It's just a blanket objectification. And what happens is we miss that person.
Wow.
that's sitting across from us, so we can go, hey, what's your name?
Mm.
You're a beautiful person. We can we know that they're maybe attractive. We know that they're beautiful. That's okay. We can't unknow that.
Right.
But I miss the person sitting in front of me because I have now hypersexualized them
Okay.
and missed and made them into an object versus, and I don't think it's a very conscious thing.
It's not.
No, it's not like I'm like, oh, I can't wait to
Right.
forget all these people. Like, no. It's very much just like because our desire is high, our arousal may be there, and we're learning, especially as youth, how to discipline that. I'm not going to use the word control for a reason.
Okay. Why?
We're not controlling it, we're disciplining it.
Mm.
Okay, because when we control something, it puts it in a locked room with a key.
Yes.
And then when that door comes open, it doesn't know how to pave.
Okay. Hold on. Let's. So you're saying that because obviously we could reference self-control is a biblical fruit, right?
Yes.
However, let me read. Let me read this from a couple of. So I'm gonna read it from NLT, but I'm gonna read this from what version is this? So this is Proverbs 20.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna read it from NLT first. So physical punishment cleanses away evil. And then it goes on to say, such discipline purifies the heart.
It's purification. Yeah. What was that? That was Proverbs 20?
That's Proverbs 20,
Mm-hmm.
verse 30. Let me read this in the Amplified version. The Amplified, you got to read a couple that, I'm going to have to read 29 and 30. Where is it at? There it is. The glory of young men is their physical strength, and the honor of aged men is their gray head, representing wisdom and experience. So this is where I'm like, I probably should have read this before the other one as well, but this is so good. Just talking about our decision making in life. And then it says, blows the wound cleanse, blows that wound cleanse away evil. So it's basically getting out the evilness. It's getting away the evilness. It's cleaning it up, and strokes reach to the innermost part, which means that as we are walking through this discipline of our soul, the purification, it reaches the innermost parts of us, and it helps us to see this person as a person,
A child of God.
not an object. If I don't cleanse my soul, if I don't cleanse the innermost part of me, I'm only going to see them as an object.
Yep. Yeah.
Wow.
My mentor that I'd referenced earlier, his jam was single sexuality, and he told me, he said, every time you think a thought about somebody sexually, your next thought should be, are they a child of God? And I said, oh, that'll bring it back real quick. He said, yes, it will. It will bring you back to like their complexity, and the value of that person, which doesn't take away the fact that they may be attractive and beautiful.
Right. So so we're not saying you can't see someone and say, man, they are attractive, he's attractive, she's attractive. We're not saying that.
No.
It's what is that next thought?
Yes. And my next behavior. How am I going to pursue that? Right.
I'm curious, like, how does that even, because it's interesting, because you could be thinking that about someone, and then all of a sudden that translates into maybe what you're looking at on Instagram or TikTok, or like, it just creates this pattern. And I'd sometimes call it soundtrack, and that soundtrack generally is going to lead you to start making some different decisions.
Yeah.
And so the wiring of the mind, like when we don't see things the right way, or we don't not control but discipline ourselves, it can lead us down these paths that can be very dangerous.
Yeah.
All right. What's the danger? I think someone watching this may say, they may ask, like, what's the risk? What's the, like, why? Why does this matter? How could this really hurt me or harm me if what does it matter? Like what's the worst that can happen to me? Because you see the back end of it sometimes. You see the adult that's done that or that's been through that trauma, or even that
Whose
student
marriage
that's
is
currently
falling apart because
or maybe before they even get married.
Uh-huh.
Like they relationship after relationship, or
yeah.
what are the I don't even want to say consequences. I don't even know the word I want to use, but why does it even matter that we discipline our souls, that we discipline ourselves, and we are very thoughtful about the things that how we see people and the things that we entertain when it comes to sex and sexuality.
Yeah. So most people confuse intensity for intimacy.
Whew. Hold on. Okay. Yeah. Yep.
Intensity.
Go ahead and go. Let's exit off the ramp
intimacy.
and let's go ahead and have that conversation.
So if it feels intense and it feels really good, then it must be intimacy. And I'm using intimacy as an umbrella label and term here to include love, to include connection, to include acceptance, to include, like, I'm using it very broadly, okay, as an umbrella term. But if it feels good and it's exciting, that's just dopamine. That's just chemicals in our brain. I get the same, right? Like, you can get that feeling from eating froyo.
Right.
That's not intimacy. And so that's the first thing that we get caught in. We seek intensity.
So, okay, so
intimacy.
let me just be practical. I see Sarah, and me and Sarah have things in common. Mm-hmm. We have things of the same interests. So now I'm interested.
Sure.
And I'm like, oh my God. Oh, I think this is the one. Mm-hmm. It's been 30 minutes, but I think it's the one.
Yeah.
I get very intense in my feelings, but I'm confused because I think that we should be intimate now. Because I'm into Sarah, or Sarah's into Billy, right? And it's like, whew.
We missed the mark. So, and I don't want to. Of course, intensity feels good. Mm-hmm. Like that. That. I don't know. Like, that's okay. It feels good. I think where we fall is that's not what God has for us.
Got it. Right.
Okay. So intensity versus intimacy is one of the big parts. I think the second thing that comes up for me is when we are. I used this example the other day. When we pursue false intimacy, so social media, pornography, it's this false narrative because you're not actually with another person.
Okay.
It's fake. That is a person on the screen, but that's not a person with you.
Right.
Okay. It creates this experience of Niagara Falls.
Whoa.
Okay.
Yes, I'm here for the visuals.
Okay.
I am. Okay.
You're standing there, and Niagara Falls is roaring and rushing beside you, and you're like, "This is amazing." Okay. What you don't know is that behind Niagara Falls is a projector and a sound machine, and paid people, perhaps, or someone with little value, like their little value of within, like, who they are and what they can be. And it's a projection, and it feels so real. It feels like you're staying at Niagara Falls, but really you're in the desert of Texas. like, and it feels real. So I don't want to negate that, but that is not Niagara Falls. It's not reality. So then when you do meet someone of intimacy and they appear, like if we're going to keep this analogy, like a beautiful trickling stream in the mountains, you go, this isn't fun.
Wow.
It's not enough. I want more. Wow. Do more. But that person, the trickling stream in the mountain, is a soul, is a person that's with you.
Oh,
man. So, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
What's scary is what I see is if you are in the mountain and you have this unrealistic expectation of Niagara Falls, in order to produce that environment or outcome for you, you either, let me think about this, how I want to say this. You now have to fill a void to make that a reality. Now you're like, whoa, this ain't Niagara Falls. So I need something else. Let me add something to this. If it's in a drink, if it's in, like I have to find a way to stimulate my mind to close that gap, because it's not that.
And here's the phrase that is, I think, I tell people, I'm like, if you're saying this phrase or feeling this phrase, yellow flag. Like, let's go ahead and pause. I need more.
Okay.
I'm like, boop, 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 boop.
Teenagers, young adults.
Time out.
Who, like singles, even in relationships, yes, if you're saying I need more from that individual, flag.
Flag on the play.
Flag on the play.
Because I don't know. I don't know if y'all know this, but that other person's also a human.
Not a mannequin.
Not a mannequin. And they're also not God.
Come on.
Okay? So they cannot, even if they try their mightiest, meet all of your needs.
So you're saying
needs.
You're saying that spigot over there can't be Niagara Falls.
No.
Can't. No matter how I dress it up.
Right.
No matter how I if I'm not careful, I'll actually go over and try to redo the plumbing to force more water to go through what that can actually produce.
Yes.
This reminds me of what Pastor Larry was talking about on Sunday. So Bass Pro Shop is named Bass Pro Shop because the people that shop there fish for bass primarily. Bass are a predatory species of fish. And so what happens is at Bass Pro Shop, you go in there and they don't have live bait. Bass eat live animals. So you have to buy things that look like live bait. Mm-hmm. But it's not the real thing. And so they'll bite into it and it's a lure.
Yeah.
Instead of like the
actual food that
exactly.
They need.
So there's no way that the fake thing can give you life in the same way. Because what I think I hear y'all saying is like, imagine you have like a gallon and your imagination and what you think you want in a sexual partner is you want a gallon because of what you've watched on websites or what you've taken in from social media. And whenever you get a cup, like the measuring form, like a cup in front of you instead of the gallon, you fill that void. And sometimes you get multiple cups to try to fill the whole gallon. And like, I think it's like you hit the nail on the head. Like you either get it in some form of vice from alcohol, or how many cups are in a gallon? I don't know, a lot, but how many women do you try to fill that with?
Yep.
Not necessarily sexually, but you're looking at them.
But emotionally.
Yeah,
Exactly.
It can be emotional. It can be emotional. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that is what is so dangerous, because you have people jumping from relationship to relationship looking for Niagara Falls.
Yeah.
And even if the sex isn't even involved, it still could be a soul tie.
Yeah. It still could be. Yeah. And I think so. So my premise of what healthy sex is, right? So we can, I want to paint a picture so people know what to look for.
Yes.
Okay. Healthy sex is physical intimacy, which is an overflow of emotional intimacy. Emotional intimacy is created through vulnerability and transparency and connection. Okay. So, because I know people have sex all the time, but they're not having healthy sex. They're not having good sex. They're not having sex within the confines of a marriage. They're like, the bodies can do what the bodies do.
Right.
And that it's missing that.
Yeah.
Because you're not, it's this faux production of what Niagara Falls is.
Right.
I also have a hot take. Can I share my hot take?
Share your hot take.
Okay. I'm throwing this one on you. I don't know that we've talked about this yet. And this is, I'm posing this so that the viewers, the listeners can go do their research and decide for themselves.
Okay. Let's do it.
I have landed in the premise through my own research, through my own theology, that sex is not a need.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
They just tuned off. Y'all still here?
Stay with me. Stay with me.
Okay.
Stay with me. Now, I'm okay if people do their stuff and disagree. I'm okay for that. We can have those conversations. Okay. I do not think that a need is a strong word for me when we apply it to sexuality, because then I am owed that.
Wow.
And it leads itself to objectification. Whew. Do I have a strong desire as a human being for sex and sexuality? Yes. Is it a strong want? Yes. It's there, right? That desire, that want's there within human beings. We are sexual beings. But is it a need? And I would invite you to think about it, to process it, to go back to your Bible about it.
Man, okay, so let's do. You have something? Okay. So this is what I want. I would like for us just to unpack that in itself. We probably don't have time now, but I think that would be a healthy, just for us to talk specifically around that, because you got to think we're encouraging most students and young adults to before marriage. Me and my wife, we did not have sex before marriage, okay? And there was a season that we got to know each other, we got to grow, we got to be vulnerable and transparent and grow closer together without sex being involved.
Yeah.
We experienced a loss of a child, right? She had a miscarriage. And what I tell some young men is I think what we miss, because even before I met my wife, I was practicing abstaining from sex. So people was like, you know what? Yeah. What I think we miss is learning how to really fall in love with the person, not with what the person can offer.
Yeah.
And a woman's going to go through a lot throughout a season of a relationship with her in a marriage, I'm just going to say marriage because I prefer for you to have sex in marriage.
Yes.
But there's something that you're going to be able to walk through as a man, not being able to have sex with your wife for X amount of time and not feel as if the world's ending.
Yeah.
Right. So how about we land this plane? I'm going to ask you, we got to come back, because I think that, not saying no, if you watch this long, I know you've gotten something from this, but I think that part is going to really help unlock a different perspective for young men and young women that are having sex at such a young age, to understand hey, it's great. It is beautiful. Believe me. Hey, I love being married and my wife gonna kill me for even saying this. I'm just telling you.
It is a beautiful gift that God has given us. Beautiful.
in the context of marriage.
Yes.
There, like, it is beautiful. However, I do think that we are missing something by allowing this to be the thing in high school, and because like it's happening, like it is happening at rates and levels that is unimaginable.
Yeah.
And you all are becoming trapped into thinking that this is Niagara Falls, and it's not.
It's not.
Right? You're starting now, and when you get married in 15 years, if you're in 7th grade, or 10 or 15 years, or 20 years, when you get there, you're not going to be able to enjoy it the way that God designed it, because I want to unpack that piece of what you're robbing yourself of.
Yeah.
But if we can, next time we get a chance, I want to unpack that part. Let's go to the science behind that. I'd love to just be able to hear more about that. But I just want to thank you, sis, for coming on. This has been so great. And I feel like we didn't even tip the iceberg. I feel like we just scratch the surface. That's what I meant. Yeah. I think we just got started. So again, appreciate you coming and driving from almost like Oklahoma to come down and hang out with me today here at Keeping the Kingdom. Hey, listen, if this is your first time listening in, we thank you. Like, subscribe, share this content. Hey, hopefully this content has been of value to you. And I'm just so grateful to be able to just unpack this very deep conversation regarding Jesus and therapy. Sis, how can I get a hold of you? Before I land this plane, how can I get a hold of you?
Yeah. So I'm up north of the Metroplex a little bit, but offer services virtually. This a little disclaimer: I'm not your therapist yet. You can seek therapy, but I'm not your therapist. This is just for educational content and purposes. But I am actually launching my own practice.
Okay,
I'm very excited about. It's called the Brooks Center for Counseling and Wellness. And so thebrookcenter.com is how you can find me. Instagram, you can find me at Mallory Oxendine and then at the Brooks Center.
Okay.
You can find all of that there, and I'm very excited and grateful to have been brought on today. So thank you.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming. Don't forget, hey, a kingdom mindset leads to kingdom connections. Kingdom connections lead to kingdom relationships.
Yeah.
And kingdom relationships lead to kingdom impact. Hey, we love you. Thank you for coming and joining this conversation with us today. Until next time, keep it kingdom. And don't forget, it's better if you die. Die to yourself. Why? Because he that is greater in me is greater than he that is in this world. So we love you. Until next time, peace.